Hey everybody, today I'm going to do a review on a Kubota skid steer. For the first time ever, one of my Kubotas had a recall. My 430 loader had a recall on, I guess there's the PVC valve that goes in it's only happened I guess one, it makes your motor run on, a diesel run on, like you see the older diesels would just take off. I guess when the PVC valve, that line can freeze. I guess it's only happened like once or twice, but they did a recall. And so I brought it back for that recall. It was supposed to be like a couple-hour thing. And then I've dealt with, it's MB Tractor. It was Westcott and Son originally, but MB bought them out. I've bought most of my equipment from MB. I've dealt with the Tilton store in New Hampshire. You know, new and used. I probably bought 8-10 pieces from them. But anyways, I dropped my machine off over there, and they happened to ask me, say, hey, is there anything else going on while we got it in here? And I said, well, if it's under warranty, I said the air conditioning. The first year I bought it, it's only, I think this is the third season I got with that. And one of the big reasons I bought that was because of the air conditioning. During this craziness of pricing, that my older loader was worth some pretty good money, so I sold it and bought this 430. And one of the features I liked was that it had air conditioning. So anyways, this summer, the air conditioning was doing the job, but barely. Like when you had to do it, a lot of times I'll put the air on a hot day, I'll still leave the passenger's door open. I just ain't a big air conditioning guy. But there's days that dust-wise, you have to have that door shut. And I had one of those days, so I said, hey, I think the air is not really working like it should. Well, they looked into it, and it needs some, I think they're going to end up changing out pretty much. They think there's a weld or something in one of my lines that might be causing a restriction. But anyways, they've had it for 2 weeks. They called me up and said, hey, well, come over and grab something. So I sent my son-in-law over with my trailer, which it's a 14,000-pound trailer, so I got to be careful what I haul. I could have hauled a 530. We get over there, and the service department thought they had a 530, all they had was 630, so we couldn't haul a 630 legally, so we left. But he's like, well, I'm all the way over there to get something. So they said, well, we'll give you guys a skid steer. So I've been wanting to try one. Never been a skid steer person. I had a Bobcat, I believe it was a S185, that I used for like 2 years. It was a contract I was keeping care of for a company that they bought it brand new. A brand new machine, and it was sitting there, and they said, well, you're welcome to use that when you're on our site. And I had to go between buildings, so I'm like free, and they're like, yeah. So I used that for 2 winters for snow removal and stuff like that on their site. So even then, I've just never been a skid steer guy. For what I do with landscaping, they just tear the ground up. I don't care how good, how gentle. This one's got pilot controls, which I'm old school, but I actually do like. That makes sense to me. I know they still make them both ways, but most of these, I guess, are like 10 that way to 1 that's the old style. But I've had it for 4 or 5 days. My son-in-law did a job with it this weekend. We ran it through. He loves it because he's had a few jobs where they've had all the new ones are like that. He did that job, finished that job up, liked it, and he's like, well, what do you think? What do you think? And I don't want to say nothing bad about it, because if you're a skid steer guy, you're a skid steer guy. But once you have a loader, I'm telling you, a loader will lift. Even my 430 loader will just lift and maneuver. You can see out of it well. You're not jumping around. You're not tearing the ground up. But I want to do a review on it. Still not something I'm glad I did, because I kept saying someday when I can afford, I don't like them a lot, and they're getting pricey now. Used to be a skid steer was affordable, so I was like, if I ever get a good deal on one, I'll probably buy one just for loading trucks like I'm going to do this morning. But my loader, I do all my screening on my easy screen in the background here with the loader, because I'm high, and I load it opposite of what most people do. Most people dump over one side and then they pick off. I always load it where I'm watching it go across, so I'm not overloading the screen. So I found this isn't big enough. I mean, I'm too close to the screener, and I got it up on logs to get it up off the ground. So rocks anything big would come off and either end up in the cab or break the windshield. So kind of frustrates me, because that's kind of why when they offered me a machine, because they might have mine for a couple more weeks waiting for parts, I said, yeah, I'll take something. But I found to me, I just don't like how close. I'm loading trailers this morning to go do jobs with. I got to make a bunch. I got to do probably 9 deliveries on top of everything else I got to do today. But it just ain't as comfortable to me. You gotta be careful how close to the trailer you get and dump it to center dump in the trailer. I couldn't even imagine trying to load my 1-ton with that. You're gonna be side dumping, and you'd never center dump with it. Not that size. This is a 65. Bigger you go, probably better off. But I'm gonna do a review on it. But right up front, I'm gonna say I'd still rather have a loader. I'm missing my loader. But we'll do a quick walk around. I think these probably take a hell of a beating, and that's why guys like them. You know, the guys that just thrash things around. Digging up hot top, you see a lot of hot top companies have them. I would love this machine for snow removal, but doing what I do for a living with the landscape stuff, even loading trucks, like I said, I don't even find it, compared to my loader, I'd still rather load trucks with a loader. But this is a fairly new machine. It was in their rental fleet. But we'll do a quick walk around. SSV 65 model. I like the idea, like compared to older ones that I've run in the past with companies I've worked for. Speed wise, this has got the 2-speed. You put it higher, you can motivate with this thing compared to the old ones. That was one thing I never liked about the old Bobcats. I think the Bobcat back in the day was the machine to have. I think everybody's kind of caught up with them now. I'm hearing, I know I ran a brand new Bobcat excavator last year that one of my friends had on site, and I was hauling fill in, and I had to use it to keep backing in his site. He said, I'll leave the key in, and that Bobcat compared to my Kubota 040 is a piece of crap. I called it half speed, and he thought I was joking. I said, you get on next time you're around on a job site, I got my 040. I said, I'm gonna let you try that. And he even said, he goes, I can't believe how much faster the thing rotates faster. I just don't see, I can't believe Bobcat. It felt like it's brand new. It's got 60 hours on it. I felt like I was getting in a machine that was 10 years old. So I know, I think this is built rugged, comfortable, air conditioning. Like, well, you can leave the door open and run the air, and you're comfortable in there. I can't imagine if you close the door, you probably feel like you're in a freezer. But I figured I'd do a quick walk around, quick video on this. I think it's awesome. MB, cared enough to give me a machine, but reality is when you're in the landscape business in New Hampshire, you make most of your money in 6 months of the year. Other than snow removal in the winter, you're not really doing much. So not having that loader right now is kind of aggravating. But I got this for free probably for 2 weeks, so I'm going to try to use it as much as I can. But when my son-in-law is around, he loves it, so I'll let him do some stuff with it and that he would normally do with my loader. But I'm going to load trucks with it today. It's working, but like I said, I'm much more comfortable in a loader. So I'm glad I did this though, because like I said, there was a time I'm thinking, oh, if I ever run into the right job or justifying buying one of these or got the right snow removal contract. But now I've had it now, I think 4 or 5 days. Probably it's investment wise, I'd buy another loader before I bought one of these. Even going bigger, I don't think I just don't like how you got to be so close to what you're dumping into. I don't like the visibility of it. I think this thing's built like big time. I mean, it's rugged. That part of it, I think it was a S185 that I had. I would say I like this better than that, as far as like the travel speed and stuff like that. I think I can see out of it better too. But just nothing compared to a loader. I mean, loader you can back up. So I just figured I'd do a quick shot. We're going to use it a little bit this week, and I'll try to get some shots of me using it. And I figured I'd do a shout out to MB too. I appreciate him caring enough to send me a machine. So, and that's something I like about Kubota. I mean, that's the first recall I've ever had out of probably 15 new machines I bought over the years. They're keeping care of it, no bull crap. Checked out, they fixed a hydraulic leak I had on a line on the front, quick disconnect. And like I said, I mentioned the air, and they dove in deep in that, which is awesome. And come to find out, I was within like a week of warranty running out, so that would have been a pain in the butt. Air conditioning, I don't care what it is, machine, cars, whatever, air conditioning can get expensive fast when you start replacing stuff. So hopefully they get it figured out. It's another thing with the air conditioning too, like I said, that some of these newer machines, I know a couple guys that rent machines a lot, and you rent them and they're like, oh, the air works in it. I'm not going to say brand names, but it's not Kubota, but they'll say, hey, the air works in it. It keeps you from roasting in the cab. But I noticed a big thing on YouTube now is a lot of people are tinting the glass too. It helps. But I know my 040 will freeze you and that thing. So my MX works good. I wouldn't say it's like the 040, but you're definitely comfortable inside that cab on a hot day. Unless when I say hot day, I'm talking like 90 plus. Anything under 90, it's like freezing you in there. But you get a real hot day, sometimes it's keeps you comfortable. And I wouldn't say it's ice cold in there by no means. All right, so that's this. Like I said, I will do a couple more videos of me using it, and I'll tell you what I think of it. And I'm not saying nothing bad. I'm just not a skid steer guy. So I will say this. I love the way that glass just flips up. When the bucket's up, you could get out of it if you had to. That was another thing I didn't like about the Bobcat when I did run it. I got stuck in a snowbank one time and couldn't get out because the door had to swing open. So the Kubota, I ain't saying that I don't know. I don't rent these things all the time, but like that's one feature about this that I'm really impressed with, is how the glass goes up. I noticed I don't like being enclosed. I'm not a big air conditioning guy. Only run air conditioning in my machines when I have to. Even my excavator, the door's normally open. But I love the way the glass comes up, and I found it doesn't rattle. Like last night, we did a bunch of manure stuff with this, moved a bunch of manure with it yesterday, and I found it wasn't rattling. It seems to be a pretty solid machine that way. But that's one feature that I like. I can tell you right now about the Kubota. I've only had this thing 4 hours. I'm gonna show. I load the trailer. I load my trailers. And if I'm hauling any amount at all, I load them up at the top of this driveway. My dump truck, I'll always load down there. It crawls up out of here, no problem. These trailer or the truck, it just, when you're putting a good load on these trailers, I don't like coming up out of here. Plus, it's pretty torn up right now because we keep getting heavy rains. But what I wanted to point out, this is very comfortable. Like coming up here, putting that thing 3 or 4 feet off the ground and dumping this trailer, it's stable with a full bucket of reground hot top in it, like rounded bucket. I loaded stone with it yesterday, same thing. It's fires buzzing across my lot here to come up here to load this trailer. I've been using my trailer for the last couple of days because of what I'm doing. But I just want to point that out. That's one thing. It seems to be pretty comfortable on its feet. The S185 I had years ago, even with snow in it, it would kind of get light in the ass, to put it bluntly, when you were turning with it up off the ground, even 2 or 3 feet. Weight wise, this thing's pretty stable going across, and like I said, not that you're supposed to run it 3 feet off the ground, but it seems to be comfortable doing it. So like I said, I'm not a professional operator in one of these, so guys are going to beat me up for that too, but I just thought it'd be a cool review since I'm going to have it for a few weeks. And my son-in-law was mad that I'm not falling in love with it. He's always said, oh, we should add one to your company. And then I'm like, I'm snow removal wise, I think as far as I'm concerned, that's when these that shine for doing snow removal. Like the S185, I think it was the S185 is what it was called, the Bobcat. That was awesome because it was a big storage place, and you had to get in between these buildings. And they had issues with guys in the past that would plow against the building, and the aluminum on those was like the thickness of a Coke can, so they would damage the buildings every year. I did it. I think I did it for 3 or 4 years, and I caused no damage at all. So they were happy with, and that's the reason. I think the second year in, they told me I could start using that because it was on site anyways, and it wasn't being used. It was kind of crazy. I think it had like 50 hours on it. It was four years old maybe. It was a brand new looking machine. But same thing, I scun the tires off of it in the 2 winters that I used it on that hot top parking lot. But it did work good. I will say that. It was a good snow removal machine. People may not like this video and they'll beat me up. But I'm a loader guy. And I think I know a lot of guys. I did a review on my 430 when I bought it. And I've got a lot of comments that people, after I watched the video, I rented one, and you are right now, when I rent them, if there's a loader available, I always take the loader. Even far as, I'm just more comfortable with the loader, like lifting heavy weight, height-wise. The 430 seems to do everything I want to do. Like I have skids over there with their pavers. There's been a couple of them that I've loaded on like my 1-ton dump that were, you know, I'm experienced with it, I guess you might say, but someone that wasn't experienced might have been a little bit nervous because the higher you go, the little more tippy it was. But I'm pretty comfortable on machines now, anything I run. And it's a sad truth. Most people run their machine. You always could use a bigger machine. I bought the 430 because that's what I can afford. Would I have liked to have had the bigger one? Yeah. And then I also try to buy stuff that I can haul with a 14,000 pound trailer because I don't have a CDL. And I don't want to get one at this point. So it just adds a lot to your insurance and more aggravation. So right now all I need is a medical card to move everything I need to move as far as my company. But I do think one of my buddies that does some logging, he rents, I believe it's a 75, which I think it does have a little bit better stance in this one as far as getting stuck. I found I moved a bunch of manure with this yesterday, and when I got into the muck, it got stuck once where it took me probably 5 minutes to get back out of it, and because it bellied out a couple times. But like I said, again, I ain't got the experience some guys do on this thing. You watch some guys, they rock that thing as far as how they can operate it. I think the more hours I put on this, the more comfortable I'd get, but it's still nothing I'll add to my fleet. I can tell you that. And for the price, you can buy, like my 430 loader is thousands less than this. So, and it's just capable in most cases. I think this might have a little more, like I said, the hot top guys love these because they rip up hot top real good. I've got a parking lot job I've got to start in a week or so, probably 2 weeks. So if this is still around, I'll probably use it on that job site. Because I got to do it's a big, I got to level up a parking lot that's probably like, I think it's like 150 by 200 feet. And I think this would work good up there. I am getting more comfortable loading the trailers and stuff with it. I still think it'd be kind of weird loading a dump truck that was high off the ground, even my 1-ton with a board on it. But I think I like my loader. It's obvious, but there's things this does, like this digs into an erosion stone pile, because I had to deliver some yesterday. Even a 5 or 6 inch stuff, it digs right in. So that's a strong point. Like, I think if you were loading trailers like this all day long, I really think it depends on what's under you. I know in my dirt parking lot here, I'm not happy with the way it's dug things up. I'm trying to be as gentle as I can, and it's still, and the problem I got is when we get these heavy rainstorms, this will take off. I normally keep this pretty flat, and I normally keep a little calcium on it so that it stays, you know, bound up. But I just don't see any way of turning that. I mean, I've tried. I have to admit the pilot controls are better than the old style. That's the first time I've ever run one with the pilot controls. I do find it's better. But overall, I'm going to stick with my loader so far. But like I said, I figured I'd do a review while I got this thing. I think I'm going to have it for a couple more weeks by the sounds. And I appreciate them giving it to me. A lot of places, I don't think there's anything saying because you got a recall, but the recall ain't why my tractor's sitting there though. The loader's sitting there. It's their air conditioning. The reason I had the skid steer is because they ended up they had this probably for close to 4 weeks. So once as a weekend, they called me up and said, hey, we'll give you a machine since we're going to have yours. It was an air conditioning thing. They couldn't figure it out. They thought maybe it never worked good. Even from day one, it kept you comfortable, but I've never had air in one of these, so I'm like, oh, maybe that's just what it is. So what they ended up finding is there was a valve that was like half stuck open up in the headliner, and the air worked real good at an idle. As soon as you revved it up, the vacuum would just go away. So then when you were using it, you weren't getting as good of air as if it was just sitting there idling. It's kind of a weird thing. And it is funny because after they said that, I do remember, like, if I took a phone call or something just sitting there, it seemed like it would build up, it would get cooler. I'm going to come right out and say I'm always going to be a loader guy. I know there's guys out there that love them skid steers, but for what I do, it just tears the ground up too much. And I'm glad I got it in a way though, because I always said if I ever run into a good deal on one, I'd probably buy one. I don't believe I would. I would rather have another one of these sitting here. Matter of fact, I wouldn't mind finding one of these, even if it was an open station. I don't think it'd bother me. It'd be a good one to leave here to load stuff with, screen. But it's amazing. Like, I had this came back to me the day it came back. It was on a job site that afternoon. I'm doing a parking lot job where I had to move a lot of material that someone left there from one end to the other. The only thing I think a skid steer's got on this is the high flow hydraulics. If you're going to put attachments on the front and stuff like that, and even then, like some of the I think the L47, the B26, I think all of them are high flow. As far as, like, if you want, you don't necessarily have to get a skid steer to get high flow anymore. It was that way for a few years. A lot of the attachments didn't run well unless you put them on a skid steer. So anything I'm going to do with this, like I said, this does everything well. Doesn't tear the ground up. I know there's guys that will argue with me with the skid steers, but in reality, I think I can move a lot more material with this than a skid steer too. You can just back, if you care about not hitting things and stuff like that. Like, you get in a tight area with that skid steer, I hated it. My neck hurt at the end of the day. The 2 or 3 things I did with it were in tight spaces where there was trucks, other companies' trucks parked there. I mean, there's a lot of room for error, and I don't care what anybody says. That's still way better. The skid steer I just had is way better than the older one I had, as far as seeing out of it and backing up. But even backing up, it's still not this here. Doing snow removal or something, this is awesome. You're not worried about backing up. You just look and you're fine. The mirrors all work well because there's glass in the back. So, but I just figured I'd let people know I got it back, what the problem was, and shout out to MB Tractor for letting me have that skid steer for a few weeks. It did help me out. This is the time of year in New England the landscaper makes most of his money. So not having a machine kind of, I wasn't happy about it. So when they called and offered me a machine, it was kind of cool. And like I said, far as running this easy screen, this works the best. You can see what you've done. You're backed away, so if something comes off the screener, the skid steer, I used it one day and I was just afraid the glass was going to get broke. Not a comfortable, maybe a bigger one would run the screener, but like I said, I just figured I would show you that the loader's back. And like I said, if you like my content, please like and subscribe. That's how we're going to grow this channel. Thanks.